morning. This is Courtney Fairchild. I'm the President and CEO of Global Services, and welcome to our episode of the New Normal in Government Contracting. Today, I am so fortunate to have Judy Bradt, the CEO of Summit Insight, joining me. Judy brings over 30 years of experience in federal business development and strategy to people who want to grow their federal business. She's an award-winning author, speaker, and consultant, and of course, my friend. Judy, thanks so much for being with us today.
I'm thrilled to do this, Courtney. I can't believe all the things we've gotten to do together and people that we've gotten to bring hope and light to in what can be a dark place in the federal arena.
Funny because your background's dark. Yeah, exactly. And so let's lead in with that actually, because I think the landscape of the pandemic, and now we're in government contracting 2021. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts about the changes that have swept through the industry and GovCon in general during this time.
The biggest change that I think has happened, and it's all for the good, is the extent to which federal buyers and industry are now have been, whether it's brought, dragged, kicking and screaming, or just seamlessly floated into using video conference and online tools to connect as human beings. There is absolutely nothing more marvelous and heartwarming and chemical and electric in a good way than seeing people in person. And everybody, pretty much everybody that I know, even the introverts, miss that. But that being said, the one big development that I think is not going away is the extent to which federal agencies are now using and will continue to use electronic platforms for industry outreach, for industry days.
How have you personally been adapting to all of this new normal? You're a pretty outgoing lady. I know you. How have you been personally adapting?
I got vaccinated and active at the beginning of May. So I got to be back in my happy place. When I'm not doing GovCon, I'm a professional climbing instructor at Sport Rock in Alexandria. And I got to be literally climbing the walls. And there is nothing about a couple of hours climbing that does not improve a day. But that
I'll
experience,
take your word for that.
That experience psychologically, I mean, the way I explain it to my climbing students is I work all week as a business owner. We work all week without a net. When I want to go do something for fun, I want to do something where somebody's got my rope. I can try, I can let go, I can say help, I can say take, I can literally drop off and let go, and somebody's got me. Where does that happen in real life? So this is a profoundly powerful experience. But even something as basic as being able to say, okay, I've got a reason to end my workday at 4 o'clock because I'm going to go to the gym, which
I think that is exactly it, because it's going to take the thing that is going to stop you from working, because otherwise I'm in that cycle, and I honestly, how to get out of it is a completely different thing.
Friend Anna Ehrman, who is well known in the government contracting community. I got Anna hooked on climbing. I mean, Judy climbs, nobody cares. Anna posts that she's climbing and the entire internet lights up with excitement.
It's actually true.
Whether
Anna, not you.
Yeah, whether somebody knows Anna from her work as in State Department, or from her work as an analyst at Input before it got bought by Deltek, or from the PTAC in Virginia, she and I are just hoping to put together a once a month informal government contracting climbing evening.
So we recently shared your blog post on innovation in federal BD, and it's called the Players and Layers methodology. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Our audience will be able to grab that on our blog site as well. But why don't you tell us what that methodology is and why it's important?
If there is any secret sauce that I leave in the world, I think it's got to be this. And it's also in my book, Government Contracts Made Easier, where I unpack more of that as well. When I work with clients on this, and I work with experienced companies. My clientele are folks that have been in the federal market for more than 5 years, have got more than 5 million in revenue, have got at least 3 to 5 people involved in federal business development. Okay. Some are new. Lots of the folks I work with, they've been around the block. They've been doing federal business development for a couple of decades. When we go through this piece, Players and Layers, experienced companies, their eyes get big. They go, oh my goodness, I never realized that this is what we do, or this is why this thing doesn't work, or, oh, this is a completely different way to leave no relationship behind. And so the way that we look at this, there are players at 5 different layers, every single place that you win a federal contract. And that's whether you're priming or subbing. There's 5 different layers where you've got to know at least one person, and you probably got to have relationships with multiple people at those layers. So here are the layers, write them down. All right. The first one, easiest person to find, can be the most frustrating person in the deck, small business specialist. If you haven't done players and layers or thought about your contacts in a structured way, and you sorted out all those business cards that are sitting in your unused personal luggage in your sock drawer and the things that are shouting at you at night on your desk, those ones, I would bet that over 50% of the cards that you've got just sort of sitting around, you wish you'd followed up with, they say OSDBU, OSBP, Office of Small Business Programs, Small Business Specialists. They can be super helpful, but the more research you've done, the more helpful they're going to be. And they are not your buyers. They're not your buyers. 99.9% of the time. I actually occasionally do business with the small business office occasionally buys programming from me. It's really rare. So they're not your buyers. The more work you do and the more focused you are, the more helpful they can be. That's layer number 1. Layer number 2, contracting. At the contracting layer, that includes both the contracting officer, who has a power the President of the United States does not have, the power to connect and legally bind your company to the government of these United States in a contract to provide services or provide goods. It also includes a contracting specialist who provides a lot of support and is somebody that you're going to need to know, but they don't have the warrant. All right, so that's a second layer. You've absolutely got to know them, but they aren't the ones who, at the end of the day, almost ever are stuck with the consequences of choosing you, which brings us to layer 3, end users. Often an overlooked or badly understood layer, or a frustrating place where I was just talking to another business owner a moment ago and said, how do we get in front of the program manager or the end user? Why would they talk to us? And this is a company that had dozens of years of experience in one facet of federal aviation. And the business owner was still saying to me, why would they care about us? And yet in the other breath, they're going, but we have, we're CMMI umpty ump and have all of these great quals and a half a dozen contract vehicles. So remembering that you've got stories, best value, expertise, all kinds of things that you can open the conversation with the end users. Those are folks you need to be talking to long time before the requirement gets written, so you can really understand how you can make a difference for them, how eventually a requirement could be shaped around exactly what you do. So you establish yourself as the low risk choice. So that's the third layer, and that's is end user. Fourth layer, stakeholder. That might be the CIO, the cabinet secretary, deputy assistant secretary. They're setting the priorities. They're setting the strategy. You need to know who people are talking about. You're almost never going to meet them, or if they're the one that's at the conference, you're not going to beg them to introduce you to the buyers. Oh, please no. Tell them that if you know their team, tell them how great a job their team is doing. Talk to them about their family, but understand what their priorities are. And finally, industry. Incumbent prime, other people nipping at their heels. There's actually a similar parallel taxonomy in the industry side, because you have the small business liaison or supplier diversity person, the person in purchasing who's actually getting you paid, the account program manager who's the major liaison with the prime. You see how this shakes out. So understand when you understand federal players and layers, you can see who you know and then realize who you don't know and who the data shows you need to know.
I could not agree with you more. I think that's really good insight for people to stop and think through and realize that there are other pieces to that puzzle that they may just not have and that they need to gain in order to be effective. What do you think we need to keep at the forefront besides the layers?
In addition to players and layers, understanding the combination of goals, milestones, and micro engagement. As vendors, we have goals. Our goals may not be the same as the players at each of those layers. I may want to win a contract. All right, great. Well, what's the goal? What's the big goal of my contracting officer? It might be to award that contract on time with no protests, get it perfectly delivered, and on time, on budget. Me, I want to win the thing and I want to get paid. Okay, well, there's some sweet spot there. But so what are going to be the milestones, the pieces that the contracting officer and the end user and the small business specialist, each of them has different milestones on the way to that contract award thing. We have multiple opportunities every single day to build trust by the way we show up in those small things. When a small business specialist or contracting officer says, "Oh, would you fill out our profile?" Great. You fill it out, you come back, say, "Yeah, it's done. What's next?" I remember talking to another person who was, she was still in a federal agency. And after she said, "I never get it close to vendors," eventually she almost said, "Oh yeah, no, there are two or three. Oh, we know each other really well. We know each other's children's birthdays." It happens, but it happens slowly.
How do we most expediently get you?
You can find me on, first of all, connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't just hit the button, say Courtney sent me, or say a little bit about yourself. That's an easy hit the button. You can take a look on my website at growfedbiz.com. And one of the other things you can do, you can tap I've got some on-demand webinars there. I also have some courses on Govology, which you may have access through your Procurement Technical Assistance Center as well. So you can actually tap some meaty knowledge and things like how to win simplified acquisitions and how to win micro purchases. So all of those, but Judy.Bradt, BRADT at growfedbiz.com, or pick me up on LinkedIn. The program that I do, I only do a limited number of things a year. I only work with a small number of companies each year. But if it turns out that you're a good fit, let's have that conversation. And if it turns out that we're not a fit, but somebody that you know is, awesome. Let me know as well who are good leads and connections for you. Anybody that has a conversation with me leaves further ahead than when we started.
That's great. And I really thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. It's always fun to see you. I miss seeing you in person, and I'm looking forward to climbing with you. As we close out, any final thoughts that you want to leave our audience with?
The biggest one I want to leave folks with is this. As contractors in the federal arena, as business owners that are here, you have chosen to do something hard. Doing business with the federal government is not easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. There's a lot of places you could have chosen to make money, and you chose to be here because you have, by dint of continuing to show up and invest your time and working capital and human capital, emotional capital, temporal capital, and being here, you know you can make a difference in the world when a federal buyer chooses you. Keep the faith, keep showing up. In order to make that difference, you have to sell. You have to build the relationship. And so if the missing piece is you need to get in front of the right people, then commit to doing what it takes to learn how to open those relationships, because that is the only way that you get to change the world. So you have a life you love, in a business you love, serving a country you love.
Well, that was a wonderful final thought. Thank you so much again, Judy, for spending your time with us. Thank you to our audience for tuning in to another episode of The New Normal in Government Contracting. We really appreciate all of your time, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
See ya.